Modern day, Germany is renowned for being a hub of technological innovation and industry in Europe. German-made products, such as Mercedes-Benz and BMW cars, as well as Siemens and Bosch technologies, have established the country as a global manufacturing leader. Furthermore, Germany holds a strategic position as a mainstay of the European Union, excelling in economics, politics, and diplomacy. However, this excellence did not come easily. Germany's history is a lengthy account of how the country navigated extreme changes in politics, economics, and society. In the early 20th century, Germany became a feared military power under Hitler's rule, triggering World War II from 1939 to 1945 and causing widespread destruction in Europe. After the war, Germany was divided into two countries: West Germany, which experienced rapid growth with Western economic support, and East Germany, which was under Soviet influence and stagnated. Germany's history is a tale of resurgence, destruction, and triumph. The country once was the epicenter of global power under the Nazi regime, experienced devastation after World War II, and then rose to become one of the world's leading economic powers. However, Germany is currently facing significant challenges, particularly the energy crisis that is affecting its economy. In the early 20th century, Germany experienced difficult times following its defeat in World War I, which lasted from 1914 to 1918. The defeat had severe consequences for the country, especially after the implementation of the Treaty of Versailles in 1919. Under the treaty, Germany was forced to pay massive war reparations to the Allies, particularly France and Britain, cede significant territories to France, and limit its military to a small size, without an air force or heavy warships. These conditions created widespread frustration and anger among the German people. The country's economy collapsed due to hyperinflation in the early 1920s, and unemployment skyrocketed. Amidst this chaos, a political figure emerged who was able to capitalize on the situation to build his influence: Adolf Hitler. Hitler, a World War I veteran, joined the German Workers' Party, DAP, which later became the Nazi Party. With powerful rhetoric, he blamed communists, Jews, and the Treaty of Versailles for Germany's downfall. In his book, Mein Kampf, Hitler outlined his vision for extreme nationalism, territorial expansion, and anti-Semitism. In 1933, Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany, and soon after, he took steps to dismantle democracy. He established a totalitarian state by eliminating political opponents, dissolving parliament, and creating the Gestapo, or Nazi secret police. In a short time, Germany transformed into a country with absolute power in the hands of one person, Adolf Hitler. Hitler began to violate the Treaty of Versailles and rebuilt Germany's military might. Within less than a decade, he transformed Germany into a country with one of the strongest military forces in the world. However, Germany's resurgence under Hitler was short-lived. Germany's first step towards expansion began in 1936, when Hitler sent troops to the Rhineland, a demilitarized zone established by the Treaty of Versailles. At the same time, the Allies failed to respond to this violation, emboldening Hitler to take further action without consequences. In 1938, Hitler annexed Austria into Germany without resistance. He then demanded that the Sudetenland region of Czechoslovakia be handed over to Germany. In response, Western powers such as Britain and France adopted an appeasement policy, giving in to Hitler's demands in the Munich Agreement of 1938. However, Hitler's expansion did not stop there. On September 1, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, triggering World War II. In a short time, Germany employed its Blitzkrieg, lightning war, military strategy to capture vast territories in Europe, including France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Denmark, and Norway. At its peak, Nazi Germany controlled almost all of Europe and formed the Axis alliance with Italy and Japan. However, this success was short-lived. When Hitler made the fatal decision to invade the Soviet Union in 1941 during Operation Barbarossa, Germany initially achieved quick victories, but as winter set in, their troops began to run out of supplies and faced fierce resistance from the Soviet Red Army. A major turning point occurred during the Battle of Stalingrad from 1942 to 1943, where the surrounded German troops finally surrendered on February 2, 1943, marking their first major defeat in the war. After that, the Allies began to counterattack on multiple fronts. In June 1944, the Allies landed in Normandy and initiated the liberation of Western Europe. From 1944 to 1945, Soviet troops advanced from the east and approached Berlin. In April 1945, Berlin was encircled by Soviet forces, and Hitler eventually took his own life on April 30, 1945. On May 8, 1945, Germany surrendered unconditionally, ending World War II in Europe. Germany's defeat in World War II led to unprecedented consequences. In 1945, the country was left in a state of physical, economic, and social devastation. Some of the significant effects of this defeat included: major cities like Berlin and Dresden were heavily bombed by the Allies. Around 70% of urban infrastructure was destroyed, including homes, roads, and transportation networks. The German population suffered greatly, with millions losing their homes and living in poverty. Approximately 10 million German refugees were forced to leave areas now part of Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Russia. Food and medicine shortages led to a drastic increase in mortality rates. Germany's economy was in shambles, with its currency losing value, leading to hyperinflation and a return to bartering. Many factories were destroyed or seized by the Allies, leaving no industry operational. Unemployment soared to record highs. The consequences of Germany's defeat in World War II were severe and far-reaching, leaving the country in a state of ruin and occupation. Following World War II, Germany was divided into two parts: West Germany, Federal Republic of Germany, under the influence of the United States and its allies, and East Germany, German Democratic Republic, under the control of the Soviet Union. In 1949, tensions between the Western Bloc, supported by the United States and its allies, and the Eastern Bloc, supported by the Soviet Union, led to Germany's official division into two separate countries. West Germany, under the influence of the United States and its allies, adopted a capitalist economic system and a parliamentary democracy. In contrast, East Germany, controlled by the Soviet Union, implemented a centrally planned socialist economy. These differences in political and economic systems created a deepening divide between the two regions, which was further solidified by the construction of the Berlin Wall in 1961. One of the primary factors contributing to West Germany's resurgence was the Marshall Plan, a US-funded economic aid program provided to Western European countries in 1948. The Marshall Plan allocated approximately $1.4 billion to West Germany, which was used to rebuild infrastructure and industries devastated by the war, revive the manufacturing sector, particularly the automotive and heavy machinery industries, and support economic stabilization, including currency reform, which replaced the Deutschmark with the Deutschmark in 1948. A key figure in West Germany's economic miracle was Ludwig Erhard, the Minister of Economics who later became Chancellor. He implemented free market economic policies that encouraged foreign investment and opened markets for international trade, reduced price controls and excessive regulations, allowing the private sector to flourish and ensuring economic stability through an independent central bank. As a result, within less than 2 decades, West Germany experienced an economic miracle. Some indicators of its success include: in the 1960s, West Germany's economy grew at an average rate of 8% per year, one of the fastest growth rates in the world. Germany became a leading exporter in Europe, with industries like BMW and Mercedes, as well as heavy manufacturing, experiencing rapid growth. Living standards improved dramatically, and West Germany transformed from a devastated country to one of the world's strongest economies. In contrast, East Germany experienced economic stagnation due to its centrally planned economy, modeled after the Soviet Union. Industries were state-controlled, stifling innovation and efficiency. Foreign investment was severely limited, as East Germany lacked extensive trade relationships with capitalist countries. The population lived under the strict surveillance of the Stasi, or secret police, which hindered individual freedom and economic innovation. Consequently, the quality of life in East Germany was significantly lower than in West Germany. Many citizens attempted to flee to the west, prompting the East German government to construct the Berlin Wall in 1961 to prevent mass migration. This disparity became increasingly apparent over time, ultimately contributing to East Germany's economic crisis in the 1980s, which played a significant role in the collapse of communism in Eastern Europe. In 1989, the world witnessed a historic moment when the Berlin Wall fell, marking the end of Germany's division. The primary factor behind Germany's reunification was the economic and political crisis in East Germany, which led to a loss of confidence in the communist regime. Additionally, pressure from East German citizens demanding democracy and freedom also played a significant role. On October 3, 1990, Germany officially reunified as a single nation. However, despite this victory for democracy, Germany continued to face significant challenges, particularly economic integration. Since East Germany was still far behind West Germany, social difficulties arose as many East Germans felt left behind in the new capitalist system. Furthermore, West Germany faced a significant financial burden as the government had to allocate trillions of euros to rebuild the former East German region. Nevertheless, despite these challenges, reunified Germany eventually established itself as a major economic and political power. Germany became the largest economy in Europe and the fourth largest in the world, after the United States, China, and Japan. However, this achievement did not shield Germany from significant challenges, particularly in 2022. As a country heavily reliant on cheap Russian energy, gas, coal, and oil from Russia played a crucial role in supporting Germany's key industries, including automotive, manufacturing, and chemicals. Before the invasion of Ukraine, 55% of Germany's natural gas imports came from Russia, 50% of coal, and 35% of crude oil. Germany's decision to rely on Russian energy was made over several decades, primarily due to Russia's cheaper gas prices and its perceived environmental benefits compared to coal. When Russia invaded Ukraine, the European Union, including Germany, began imposing economic sanctions on Russia. In response, Russia reduced and eventually halted gas supplies to Europe, triggering the largest energy crisis in modern German history. The primary impact of this crisis was a tenfold increase in gas prices compared to previous years. Several major German factories had to reduce production or even shut down due to skyrocketing energy costs. Inflation rates soared, reaching 11.6% in October 2022, the highest level in decades. Citizens faced skyrocketing electricity and heating bills, reducing their purchasing power. Meanwhile, Germany's energy policy, particularly its transition to renewable energy, put the country in a more vulnerable position. Germany decided to shut down all its nuclear power plants by April 2023. This decision deprived Germany of a stable source of electricity, particularly during the energy crisis. On the other hand, Germany had invested heavily in wind and solar energy. However, these sources were still insufficient to replace gas and coal entirely. The lack of energy storage infrastructure made renewable energy unreliable during periods of low production. As a result, Germany faced an increasingly severe economic crisis, exacerbated by an aging population and labor shortages, which could slow down economic growth. Countries like China and the United States are increasingly dominating the technology and energy industries, making it more difficult for Germany to bounce back. If global tensions continue to escalate, Germany will face even greater challenges. However, history has proven that Germany has successfully built one of the world's largest economies. Nevertheless, the challenges Germany faces today, particularly the energy crisis, economic slowdown, and global geopolitical changes, raise questions about whether Germany can maintain its position as a leading power in Europe. Will the giant be replaced by the next major player? Only time will tell. Germany must continue to innovate and adapt to global changes to maintain its position as a major economic and political power in Europe.